Welcome to From Rome Info Video. Here at the monastery of Trisulti in Collepardo, Italy, the province of Frosinone. Trisulti is an ancient Benedictine monastery that became a Carthusian monastery and now has been in the news lately because of the controversy over Steve Bannon and his Institute Dignitatis Humanae. So let me tell you something about the monastery. Okay, here's an ancient picture of it, and it's a huge complex, and I'll read you the story in a moment just to show you what it looks like from the sky. And there's 250 acres of woodlands. It is now classified as a national monument in Italy. First, a little of the story. The Abbey of the monastic life was started at Trisulti at the foot of Mount Rotonario in the territory of Collepardo, Diocese of Velletri, by Saint Dominic of Foligno, a great reformer and founder of Benedictine abbeys in southern Lazio. In the year 1000, he built a magnificent monastery which we can still admire today, despite the collapse of the central part of the church and chapter house. After 2 centuries of Benedictine life, Pope Innocent III decreed in 1204 that the abbey and its possessions should pass to the Carthusians, who sent 4 lay brothers with the task of building a new monastery suitable for their kind of monastic eremitic life. The construction of the charter house was carried out very close to the old abbey. The official installation took place on September 25th, 1208, with monks coming from the charter house at Cosotto. On July 17th, 1211, the new church was consecrated and dedicated to the Apostle Saint Bartholomew, again by Pope Innocent III, who, as a sign of his benevolence toward the monks, had a palace built for himself in the surrounding areas. This building was restored in 1958 and is still called by his name. A number of changes in the course of time have masked the charter house's original appearance. Since 1947, the monastery has been inhabited and looked after by Cistercians of Casamare, who carry on a holy life with their witness. They've gone only in the most recent years. The huge complex was a home to around 100 monks, and they, through the centuries, they supported themselves by selling and cutting the lumber of the mountainside, by pasturing pigs under the oak trees, by running an oil press and a wheat press, a wheat mill for the local inhabitants of the valley, and producing manuscripts. The monastery here is famous for its monastic library, which is open to scholars doing research, and monasteries who raised livestock had huge and splendid libraries, because the pages of the books were made from the skins of animals, and that's why they've lasted throughout the ages. This is a little of the Church of St. Bartholomew. You can see here the splendor of it. I can't show you the interior of the monastery because the left-wing government here has imposed the obligation of political submission to their fake pandemic, and therefore, unless you show submission to their new religion of the virus, you cannot visit any national monument or any museum. This is a clever political trick to steal the cultural history of a nation from citizens who refuse to submit to the new Marxist religion of state, which is the virus. And shortly here in Italy on the 27th, they're going to pass a law that will make homosexuality the state religion. If you say anything against them or make them feel discriminated against, or if you are even thought to harbor hatred for them, you can go to prison for 6 years, have your driver's license taken away from you, your passport taken away from you, and be confined to your house at nighttime for a year. You can also be forced to work 2 years for free for a pro-gay organization. So it's a law designed to totally destroy any sense of freedom of religion or freedom of speech in Italy. It will certainly completely destroy the tourist industry because the law applies equally to foreigners as it was to citizens. Those citizens, by losing their passport and driver's license, would be imprisoned politically in Italy and not be able to even seek a political asylum outside of Italy. That's how vicious this government is. The government wants to extend the state of emergency until December, but just in these last few days, more than 100,000 emails were sent to the President of the Republic demanding he not sign this extension into law, because Italy has a parliamentary system, so the laws passed by Parliament have to be signed by the President of the Republic. But it's a beautiful monastery. As you can see, it has wonderful treasures inside. It's just that we who believe in the truth are exiled from this regime, and there's nothing we can do about it without putting them at risk for suffering a heavy fine and going to jail for not observing the things. I'd hoped to speak with Mr. Hartwell here, the custodian of Trisulti Monastery and the colleague of Steve Bannon, but he's not here today. He's at Rome. Seems when I'm in Rome, he's here, and when I'm here, he's at Rome. So I would love to do an interview with him about the situation here. So let me tell you a little bit about the story. In 2018, if I remember correctly, the Italian government, this is the first administration under Conte, when Salvini was still in the government, offered several hundred historic places that the Republic had the property of because the Kingdom of Italy had stole them from the church at the time of the Risorgimento. Risorgimento in Italian means resurrection, but they didn't resurrect anything. It was the great theft. They put them up for a special kind of lease. You could lease them for 100 years if you paid the state $100,000 a year and you fixed up the property. You would have to have 4 or 5 companies, experts at historical restoration on your team and put together a plan for the restoration. So Dignitatis Humanae Institute, I don't know if it pre-existed or was created just for the occasion, was organized by Steve Bannon, got a lot of clergy in the Vatican involved, Cardinal Burke was involved, and they applied for the lease on this monastery, which is a national monument, has, as I said, 250 acres of forest around it. And they were granted the lease. However, after they obtained the lease, it became out in the press that what Steve Bannon wants to do here, Dignitatis Humanae, is start a school for training future politicians to be pro-nationalist and anti-immigration. So the government, being left-wing, was extremely upset and tried to take away their lease. And they brought a case in administrative court against the Institute. And at each step, the government lost. And so the administrative case ended with victory for the Dignitatis Institute, the judge ruling that since the ministry conceded the lease, they cannot fault the person who made the application. Because if there was any irregularity, it was on behalf of the workers of the ministry who failed to oversee the precise details of the application. However, the judge did indicate that the Ministry of Fine Arts has a legal recourse to begin a criminal case against the Institute for submitting a fraudulent application. I'm not an expert in Italian law, but I think that's a very good case, and most likely 2, 3, 4 years, Dignitatis Institute will lose the case, unless in that time they can raise the money and organize a plan for the restoration. So now it's uncertain. Here in the local town of Collepardo, the mayor and the citizens are kind of put off by the fact that the Institute, which they thought was from the Vatican and was going to be involved in ecclesiastic affairs, turns out to be a political organization. They wanted the monks to return, or at least some religious entity to take the place, because to the people in these valleys, this is a very sacred place. A Catholic monastery is a place where men dedicate themselves to the service of Christ, the following of Christ, and a life of prayer 24/7 for centuries. There's been monks here for the last 1,000 years praying in this place. It's a place that truly belongs to the church and to men of God. And so that is the story of Trisulti. I wish I could show you more. That was my plan today. But they're observing, even Steve Bannon's institute is observing the corona controls. And I'm a bit surprised at that. But excuse me, if you don't fight falsehood and you admit just a little of it, then you've ruined your whole reputation. You've ruined your character. And you have admitted that lies deserve respect like truth. That's the whole agenda of the left. Whether it's rights for this kind of perversion or that kind of monstrous forms of marriage, whether it's a fake pandemic or the needs of foreign immigrants. It's all based on lies. It's a politic of lies designed to destroy society and destroy the integrity of human beings and to abuse them intellectually and in the most essential parts of what it means to be human, to live for the truth, to live in the truth, to live of the truth, to live for the truth. So a dark shadow has fallen over Italy and most of the West, and certainly over this place here, that only those who live the lie can enter this most sacred place. And that is the greatest sacrilege of the all. So this, my name is Brother Alexis Buñol, and this has been a report from Rome Info Video, a visit to the ancient monastery of Trisulti in Collepardo, in the province of Frosinone in Italy. God bless. Pace bene.